Let's find a comfortable seat. Sit up nice and tall. If you're at all depleted or fatigued, you can start on your back. We'll end up there shortly anyway. And as always, yoga asana is this invitation to engage your body in mindful movement. Movement that's curious, exploratory. It's an invitation to slow down everything and really deepen awareness. And I've said this many times, yoga is it's a healing practice. So we get to delve a little deeper, peel away layers of the onion, so to speak, and find places where we have stickiness, or we have congestion, or just uncomfortability. And that could be physical or emotional or spiritual. So lots to work with, right? Anyway, I want to start, if you're sitting in your seat and it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes down or take your gaze downward. And we're going to work today with some really supportive back bends, opening the front body, the heart space, but also working with lengthening the spine. So sit up nice and tall, bring your lumbar spine in towards the midline, and root your sitting bones down into the earth. Feel the connection between buttocks and earth, legs and earth, feet and earth, or if you're on your back, your whole back body and the earth. And drop out of your more of your conceptual headspace and come into the sensations of your body. I'm going to read just a little portion of a poem by Donna Faltz, who writes a lot of yoga poetry. And then we'll come back to it at the end, but just part of the invitation again this morning. Use yoga to become aware, to touch what lies beneath the surface of the skin. Tension that might be longing for release, a knot of fear so deep and familiar that you believe it's part of who you are. Ease into dark corners, locked rooms, and unexplored hallways. Gain entry not by force, but only by softness. Only by softness. So take somewhere between 4 and 10 more rounds of breath. Giving yourself permission to enter some of those locked doors, dark corners. At the end of your sequence of breathing, let's take 2 really almost a sigh, it's an open mouth exhale. So inhale through the nostrils, open mouth exhale. Inhale through your nostrils. All right. And then on your mat, if you don't already have the blanket set up, now you can see my setup here. I have my one blanket across my mat. And you could use a bolster if you had a bolster. You could put a block underneath your blanket or stack two blankets. It's going to be up to you. But we're going to come to Matsyasana, fish pose, a supported fish pose. So I'm going to take my, I'm going to lie on the blanket, and the edge of my shoulder blades, the top edge is just on the edge of the blanket. So I've got a pretty low setup here, and you could play around with seeing what supports you best. And my arms out in T, the T position. And we're just going to take this passive Matsyasana pose to encourage some opening through the collarbones, through the heart space. And as you take some rounds of breath here, you might even take your hands to your core somewhere, to your trunk somewhere. See if you can fill the entirety, the 360 circumference of your core. So breathing not just into the front of the body, but the sides, the back of the body. If it's too much, if your setup is too much, obviously for your low back, just take it down. If you want to play with going a little bit higher, you could do that as well. These, when I started practicing yoga, asana, these were the hardest poses for me. The heart exposed, it felt very vulnerable to me, and often produced a lot of tears. Okay, so we'll just roll to one side now and move your blanket. Keep it close by, so you'll just move it off your mat, but keep it close by and come back down to your back. You bend your knees. And take the soles of your feet to the floor. Back of the head resting firmly on the mat. And just begin some pelvic tilting here. So on the inhale, draw the pubic bone away from the navel. That's an anterior tilt of the pelvis. And on your exhale, draw your pubic bone back towards your navel. That's a posterior tilt. And this is important for us to understand these two anatomical terms for when we get into the back bending, more specific back bending. Okay, so just continue that little pattern. Inhale. Exhale. And see if you can slow the whole process down here. On your next inhale, slide your chin up towards the ceiling. Keep your mouth, your jaw nice and relaxed as you do that. And then on your exhale, as you draw your pubic bone back towards your navel, bring your chin back down towards your chest. So the head, the cervical spine is moving, opening, and then closing, for lack of a better term, with the movement in the pelvis. Rest in neutral for just a couple of breaths here. Open your jaw. So bring the lower jaw away from the upper jaw, and then toggle your jaw right to left. Now keep the jaw relaxed. Take the tip of your tongue to your palate, upper palate. So the tongue curls back a bit, and you're just touching the upper palate, somewhere in the middle of your upper palate, the roof of your mouth. And keep that openness in your jaw as you go back to some pelvic tilting. And then coming to neutral again. Now bring your hands behind your head. Interlace your hands at the back of your head. And on your inhale, draw your navel away, your pubic bone away from navel. Slide your chin up towards the ceiling. Keep the jaw open and relaxed. Tip of your tongue on your palate, upper palate. And on your exhale, draw your pubic bone towards your navel. Roll your upper body up, arms out wide, tuck your chin into your chest. Inhale back to the floor. Pubic bone moves away from navel. Head slides up, chin pointing towards the ceiling. Keep your jaw open and relaxed. And on your exhale, lower back towards the floor as you move pubic bone towards navel and lift head and shoulders so you can keep your elbows wide to start with. And repeat that a few times. Next time you exhale and you draw the pubic bone towards the navel, back towards the floor, squeeze the elbows together, and then bring the knees towards the elbows. So kind of a full crunchy here. And then inhale, take the soles of your feet back to the floor, pubic bone away from navel, slide chin up towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring everything in tight and close. And I would encourage you to do this really slowly, really feel your core beginning to come online. Speed hides need, and we really want to know what it is we need. That's part of this practice. What do we need to unwind, to undo some of the lifetime of holding or clenching or grasping or imbalances? Just continue this pattern a few more times. And then rest your feet to the floor, take your arms out to a T, and just move your neck softly, your head softly from side to side. You might even, as you turn your head in one direction, you could tug a little bit on the other arm. So feeling some opening through your neck. And then begin to let your knees go side to side, softly, the windshield wiper, knees, windshield wiper legs. Opposite arm can reach up and away. And begin to feel a little arching in your low back as you do this, a little baby back bend. Turning your gaze to the outstretched arm. opposite direction of your knees. This is all body scanning, seeing where we are. Great, and then stack your knees over your hips. And you can just begin to rock back and forth slightly, but don't let your knees fall. So there'll be some engagement. Draw your navel in towards your spine. So there's engagement in the core. And then you can let your knees fall to the left, arms in the T position. Draw the lower ribs away from the floor. So that will be your left side of your body. And scoop your belly button up towards the ceiling. So use your core muscles to deepen this twist. So you're trying to bring the right side body down towards the floor. See how much of your back body you can actually have to the floor here. Maybe it's just your shoulder blades. Maybe it's just your left shoulder, your right and left shoulder. Then inhale your top leg up and just hovering again, knees above your hips. Can you just move softly back and forth a few times? And then let your knees fall to the right. And again, lower side ribs, the right side of your body, can you draw that away from the floor and try to spin your left ribs down to the floor? So today as we work, we're dealing with many of the archways in the body. So not just the lower back, as we may often think about in back bending, but we'll also be dealing with the feet, the cervical spine, the neck spine. Inhale, top leg up. And then just a little rocking. And then squeeze your knees into your chest. You could take your forearms underneath your knees, or you could take your hands to your feet like a happy baby. And then can you spread your back body like spreading butter on toast? Let it just spread out wide. Release. Turn to one side or cross at the ankles and rock yourself up to a seat. Great. So now we're going to take a block, and we'll take the long edge of the block and we'll take that between our ankles and sit in Virasana. So sit bones on the block, squeeze the block with your ankles, and the tops of your feet are on the floor here. And then with your hands and fists, just begin to like massage through your soles of your feet, the plantar fascia, starting at the heel and moving all the way down to your toes. And then beginning with the pinky toe side of your foot, just grab your pinky toes with the same hand and just circle the toes around, each toe around in a circle both directions, and kind of pull it out, set it back down, then grab the next toe and make some circles with the toe. Kind of pull it out long and set it back down. Then you're to the third toe. Second toe. Might be getting a little hard to reach. And then the big toe. And it's pretty hard to make circles with the big toe, but see if you can just kind of open up some space in the big toe there. Good. Great. And then all tops of your feet down on the floor. Then we'll come forward onto our hands, turn toes under. See if you can get all 10 toes under. And then you can set your hips back towards your block. not necessarily going to sit on the block. Or you could move the block away, bring your feet in close to one another, and set your hips on your heels. You might have to have your hands forward. As you do this pose more, open up the bottoms of the feet, the first arch in the body. You'll be able to sit back, interlace your hands, and reach up over your head. Draw your tailbone down towards the floor. Reach the arms up. So getting length in your spine here. And then release down to the floor, hands to the floor, tops of the feet to the floor. Feels nice to kind of tap your feet. Good. And in this tabletop position, go ahead and do a couple of cat-cows. So cow, of course, is a gentle back bend. And then pressing into the floor, round your back towards the ceiling. Now, as you go through the cat-cow, notice what is the position of your pelvis. So in the cow, you should be drawing the pubic bone away from the navel, anterior tilt of the pelvis. And then on your exhale, you'll bring the pubic bone back towards the navel, rounding your back towards the ceiling, and that's the posterior tilt of the pelvis. So move back and forth, just in your mind's eye or your awareness, being quite aware of what your pelvis is doing. Moving back and forth a few times there. Great. And then you're going to grab your blanket, and then you're going to set the blanket back down on the mat. And the best folding job you can do, probably want the nicer edge of your blanket forward. Okay. And so this is just a really nice variation of some of our belly down back bends, and it might feel really nice to you. It might be like, I don't really feel like I'm doing a back bend, but stick with it, and it might be something you could share with someone new to yoga as well. So you're going to put your pelvis on the blanket, and then we'll come to just all the way down onto our belly, make a little pillow with our hands, rest our forehead on that pillow. Take a few breaths here, just feeling into your whole, filling with your breath, your whole cylinder of your body. Feel your back body expanding. Side body. Great. Okay, so now from here, I'm going to lift my head just to speak to you, but you don't have to lift your head. You could keep your head resting on your hands. Turn your right toes under, and your heel will stack over your toes. Engage your leg. Take a couple of breaths here, and then release the top of your foot to the floor. And then turn your left toes under, heel stacked over your toes. So you're really pressing the pubic bone into the floor and drawing tailbone down. Good. And then come back, top of the foot to the floor. Now extend your arms out in front. You can have your forehead on the floor. So it's sort of a modified Sphinx pose. Good. Press into your hands. Just lift your head so your face is sort of pointing down at the floor. You lift your head straight up. So keep the back of your neck long. You put a little pressure in your hands, isometrically pulling back slightly. And then do that same thing with each leg. So turn the right toes under, heel stacks over the toes. One breath cycle, release. And then stack the left toes, heel stacked over the toes. So you turn the toes under, stack the heel over the toes, and release. Great. Now we'll we'll increase the challenge a little bit. So as you're lying here on your tummy, can you imagine your legs going into internal rotation? So you're upside down, so it's a little bit tricky to imagine this, but bring your big toes towards one another. So internal rotation, and see if that sort of opens up a little more space in your sacroiliac area. Good. Then lift your head and shoulders. Keep the back of your neck long. So think more about lifting or reaching your crown away towards that end of your room, and then lift your right leg off the floor. Just about 10 inches or so, 8 to 10 inches. And release. Keep that internal rotation of the leg. Lift the left leg up. One breath cycle, and then release. Good. Now bring your arms alongside your body. Turn your head to one side, resting on your temple or the side of your face, and bend your knees and just rock your feet back and forth slightly. And then you'll pick up your head and turn the other direction. A little support for the neck. Good. Come back to center now. Take your forehead to the floor and bring your arms, keep your arms alongside your body. Lift your shoulder tops up. Press pubic bone into your blanket. And really draw the big toes towards one another, so it's internal rotation of the legs. Then just lift your head right off the floor. So drawing the crown of your head long. So really thinking length more than height here. Good. And then you can lift your legs. Shalabhasana, the locust pose. Hold it for 3 more breath cycles. Big toes turned in towards one another. Using the core here, buttocks, hamstrings. Good. Then you can bend your knees. Keep pressing pubic bone into the floor. Isometrically, like you're trying to draw your feet up towards the ceiling, so you feel the hamstrings working. Good. And then release. Take one cheek to the mat. You could bend your knees here again and move your feet back and forth softly. Turn. Take the other cheek to the mat. Great. And then come back to center. Take your forehead to the floor. Bring your hands to your low ribs. So get that same alignment with your legs. So internal rotation of the thighs. That would be big toes pointing in towards one another. Inhale, press, lift your chest, reach your crown long. So again, not going for so much height, but more length as you draw your hands back isometrically, coming into this cobra. Holding for 3, 2, 1, and then press up to table. Neutral spine, neutral pelvis. Good. Then from here, you can just walk your knees onto your blanket setup and press up to standing on your knees. Great. So you could have your blocks nearby for use if wanted. Okay. So let's balance on the left knee and just pick the right foot up and bring the right foot forward and come into that 90-90 stance. 90-degree bend in the front leg, 90-degree bend in the back leg. And then inhale, sweep your arms up. Draw your tailbone down. Now get that little bit of anterior tilt in the pelvis. So pubic bone away from navel. Draw your navel in to support your back, so your core in to support your back, and then reach left hand back to left thigh. Right hand reaches over. So it's a side bend, back bend combo. Inhale, sweep back up to center, and then you're going to just shift back, straighten your front leg any amount, and just take a little bit of a bow, kind of a balancing bow. So you're not going very deep. I'm keeping my back really nice and straight. I'm up on my heel of my front foot and just opening that hamstring, that front hamstring. Inhale to come back up and take right knee back beside left knee. Balancing on your right knee now, pick your left foot up, bring it forward, 90-90. Inhale, sweep your arms up. So you have the tailbone drawing down, but the pubic bone moving away from the navel. Core engaged, reaching through the fingertips. Bring your right hand to your right hamstring, left arm over. So back bend, sort of side bend combo here. One more breath cycle. And then inhale back up to center, extend your front leg. You could have the sole of your foot on the floor or your toes up, and then just hinge forward, keeping your back nice and long, lengthen the back. Just a little counter, but not a full fold. Inhale back to center, and balancing on your right knee, bring your left knee in alongside your right knee. Now turn all your toes under again, all 10 toes under. Good. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Find that position in the back body so you have a little bit of anterior tilt in the pelvis, but the navel's drawn up and in. And then on your exhale, sweep your right hand down to your right heel. Inhale, come back up to center. Exhale, left hand to left heel. Inhale back up to center. So this is Ustrasana, a variation on camel, Ustrasana. And one more time to the right side. And back up to center. And one more time to the left side. And back up to center. And then just hands to heart center. Some options here. Release your hands to your sides. Draw your tailbone down. Draw your spine up. Really feel for length. And back of the head lined up with the sacrum. So Tadasana on your knees. And then choices are to do that same variation or to drop back into a more traditional Ustrasana with both hands on the heels. So I'll cue for that. You want to begin with the palms on the palms of your hands in right by the sacrum and pressing the hips forward. This could be also a variation where you stay. Good. And some of you could take your head back. I find that makes me quite dizzy to take my head back, a little low blood pressure on my part. So I'm just going to keep my neck in line with my spine. I can bring one hand down to one heel and the other hand down to the other heel. Keep pressing my hips forward And when I'm ready to come out, I sort of let myself spring back up and just come to standing on my knees in Tadasana. So you could do either one of those versions. Great. And then from here, we'll come meet back standing on our knees. And then let's come to table once again. Widen your stance with your knees. And take some cat-cows with side movement, so like a circling movement, cat-cow. So cat-cows adding some circular movement. And just a couple of rounds here, and then press up and back down facing up. Okay, from this downward dog, you're going to walk your feet forward and come to standing. If you can do that, and also scoot your blanket out of the way. Extra points for you from the Romanian judge. Good. And then we'll come to standing in Tadasana. Okay. So in your Tadasana, take probably, a hip distance apart stance and rock onto your toes or balls of your feet, and then rock back to your heels, and just find that in between, steady all four corners of your feet firmly into the floor. Good. Now lift, once you have your feet firmly planted, lift all 10 toes. Take a look down at your feet and see, you can see if when you have your toes lifted that your inner arch will also be lifted. The medial arch, longitudinal arch. All right, so you want to keep that lift, and you could play with this some other time, but just set down one toe at a time if you can, back down to the floor. And even if it doesn't really happen right now, you can intend it to happen, and maybe with some practice you can get to setting down your toes. Make sure your toes are nice and fanned out. All right, arms to the side, and then find that nice Tadasana. Length through your back of the head lined up with the sacrum. Okay, so we want to establish Tadasana for some of the standing poses we'll do that incorporate some back bending. Okay, but before we do that, we're going to work with the feet a little bit more. So bring your right foot behind your left foot, turn the top of your foot, the toes down, so toenails into the floor. So right foot behind left foot, and then you're going to bend through the left knee and sort of lean forward. I actually, if you need wall space to do this, take wall space, but leaning forward so that you feel a stretch on the front of your shin, the tibialis anterior. So really stretching the top of the feet. So you have your right foot behind your left, and a little bit of forward lean. You probably have a little bit of bend in your front leg. Good, then release that. Shake it out. Take your left foot behind your right foot, top of your foot into the floor. A little bit of lean forward. And you'll feel the top of your foot working here, stretching all those muscles on the top of your foot. Ooh, feels great actually. And then release. Good. All right, so if you have a little bit of wall space, it doesn't even have to be anything more than a door jamb. I'm just going to show you another nice back bending variation. Let's see, I might have to turn my my computer a bit, my orientation, so you can see. So I'm going to come into the wall space here. All right, and with my hands about shoulder distance apart and shoulder height, I'm going to bring my left foot back, rest on my toe tips, heel stacked over toe tips. The same thing we did on the floor with the blanket. Standing leg nice and strong, other leg nice and strong. And you should feel that you're in a bit of a back bend shape. And then you can set your feet back to center, take your right foot back, and I'm back about 1.5 foot maybe. Toes down into the floor, heel stacked over toes. So this could be something you do, you know, when you're standing and you're waiting in line for something, or you know, just this is a really nice variation of an easy back bend. Good. And then release. Come back to the top of your mat in Tadasana. Lots of ways to work our bodies when we're not on the yoga mat, which is great. All right, so let's inhale and reach the arms up. And exhale, just come through heart center. Resting your arms beside you, get a little anterior tilt, a little forward tilt in your pelvis. Draw your navel up and in. Reach your head, crown of your head up long. Open through the collarbones, so turn the palms forward. Turn the palms forward. Now reach the back of your head towards where the ceiling and the wall meet. Now this should feel a little bit, really press down through the feet, keep firm engagement in the legs. And this should feel a little bit like a standing back bend. Now you could reach the arms up as well. And bringing palms together, keeping hands separated, take your gaze up to your hands if that feels okay for you. Release your hands down to your side, bend through the right knee and step your left foot back, coming into Warrior One stance. And again, you should have in this stance, if you can line your shoulders up with the short edge of your mat. So there's a little twisting in the upper body. The hips may or may not line up with the short edge of the mat. Most of our hips don't. So just think about the shoulders lining up. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Draw the tailbone down slightly, but keep that anterior tilt in your back, in your pelvis, right? So pubic bone moving away from navel. Suck low ribs in, so core is engaged. Inhale, reach fingertips up, 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 up. And then exhale, bring your hands down around your front foot, step back, downward facing dog. Now in your downward facing dog, do a couple of those pelvic tilts. Draw pubic bone away from navel. And draw pubic bone back towards navel. Find neutral. Find neutral. Very nice. And then walk your feet up to your hands. Halfway lift. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Bend, any amount of bend in the knees is fine. And then bring your hands to your hips and either roll up through your spine bones or hinge up at the waist, coming back up to standing. Tadasana. Find that Tadasana stance again. Palms forward. Tailbone, there's a little anterior tilt in your pelvis. And at the same time, tailbone is reaching towards the floor, like you're plugging in. Plug your feet in. Inhale, reach your arms up. And right here is fine, just with the arms extended up. Draw low ribs in, navel in towards spine, or take a gaze up at your hands. As you exhale, you'll bend through the left leg and step your right foot back, warrior one on this other side. Find your warrior one feet, so you can be as wide as the edge of the mat. Press through the back heel, bend through the front leg. Shoulders are square to the short end of your mat. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Gather your low ribs in. Navel in towards spine. Reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling. And on your next exhale, drop your hands around your front foot. Step back, downward facing dog. Take a few pelvic tilts, kind of overemphasize the pelvic tilting here. So you have both extremes. And then find neutral. Press the hips back. Press the front of your thigh through the back of your thigh. And then walk your feet up to your hands, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Bending through your knees any amount, hands to hips, hinging up at the waist, or rolling up spine bone by spine bone. Good. All right, so again, if you want some wall space for this next activity, you could just have the wall of the door jamb or the edge of your couch just beside you, lined up beside you. And we'll take the left foot in the left hand, and you can start with your hand on something to balance, but imagine that you still have the lower half of your left leg. So find Tadasana here. Find Tadasana. Then you can extend the right arm up and then just take a few dips forward. So you're just going to reach forward with the upper hand and dip or hinge at the waist. Come back to Tadasana. Do this a couple times. See where your balance is today. Good. And then, when you feel like you have your balance pretty much figured out, you can press your back foot into your back hand as you pull against your back foot. You'll feel anterior tilting of the pelvis. And then here again, as you hinge forward, reaching the front arm, the top arm, up and away, pressing your back foot into your back hand as a counter. Any amount of forward tilting in dancer. Inhale to come back to center. Release the opposite foot. Release your top arm down. Come back to Tadasana. Good. Then we'll take the other side. So again, you can start by using some wall space to just help you get your balance on one foot. Now the right foot into the right hand. My knees are lined up and I'm in Tadasana. It's as if, I've got a phantom lower leg here. Finding Tadasana first. And you can keep your hand on the wall space and do the same thing, just tilting forward. You're still gonna be coming into this nice pretty back bend. Or you can release the arm alongside the ear. And as you tilt, you press, you hinge at the waist, anterior tilt in the pelvis. And then when you're ready to play with the holding, you're gonna just hinge forward, press your back foot into your back hand strong standing leg. And come on back, releasing both feet down to the floor, Tadasana. Open the heart by bringing palms forward, drawing shoulder blades in a bit and down your back, so a little retraction. And then inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, fold through center. Bring your hands to the floor, step your feet back, downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, drop to your knees, come into a little bit of a cow, and then exhale, slowly round and press your hips back and come into the child's pose. You could have your knees wide here, body in between your legs, or you could have your knees together and you could round your back and stack your upper body on your legs. And from this child's pose, then we'll press ourselves up to sitting on our shins, take hips over to one side, feet to the other side, and make our way back to our backs. And just rest in a position of comfort. You might feel as you take some real deep, intentional breaths that you actually feel the pelvis moving a little bit, that pelvic tilt on the inhale and exhale. And then arms alongside your body. Press into your heels. Feel a little bit of anterior tilt. So inhale, let's start with the inhale. As you inhale and you just feel a little bit of space underneath your back, press into your heels, lift your hips, draw your arms behind you in the dynamic bridge. And then on your exhale, roll down one vertebra at a time, really giving your spine some nice love in here. And when you come to the floor, at the end of your exhale, you start to inhale again. You draw the pubic bone away from the navel slightly, press into your heels, lift up again. Take this as slow as you can possibly stand here, just to really feel that. So Setu Bandha is a back bend. Bridge pose is a back bend. And so now we want that little bit of anterior tilt in the pelvis as we lift. And then we roll back down. So in this way, we access the musculature that we need for pressing up into bridge, the multifidus muscles along the spine. So really feel that little bit of anterior tilt, then you lift. Okay, so last time up, you could hold this, you could take the arms alongside your body, pressing into a little bit higher bridge, or interlace hands underneath your back, or setting a block underneath your sacrum in a supported bridge. And some of what this practice teaches me is to be honest about what I need, what's good for me today. So find what's good for you today, what you might need to come into this final, more resting posture. And you could stay in that supported bridge, if that's where you are, or you can find your way down to the floor, coming into your expression of Shavasana, your experience of Shavasana. We'll be here for just a few minutes, so allow yourself to let go of something, anything. Just let go of something somewhere. This is the rest of that poem. I'll read it again. Let go of something somewhere. Allow yoga to become a practice of awareness, to touch what lies beneath the surface of the skin. Tension, longing for release, a knot of fear so deep and familiar that you believe it is part of who you are. Ease into dark corners, locked rooms, unexplored hallways. Gain entry not by force or will, but only by softness. Enter on the wings of breath and turn the key of self-acceptance to let go of something somewhere. I'd invite you to bring your hands to your heart space, the space that we're opening today. And offering yourself that deep self-acceptance, loving what is, loving who is, the perfect you. There is no other you. Gratitude for anyone who helps you make this practice possible. And stay as long as you like on the floor. Option to roll to one side for a few breaths, or to join me in a seat. I'm going to close us with a round of ohms. You can join in silently if you want to, or just enjoy the vibration. Namaste.